Hey, I'm Vic Bondi of Articles of Faith and a dozen other bands, and I'm here on Couch Riffs talking about music.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. It's your pal Mike Squires, and this is Couchers Podcast episode number 302. And my guest this episode is hardcore legend Vic Bondi, who has been at it for coming up on 50 years. Incredibly inspiring. What a cool conversation I had with Vic. This fella has no shortage of stories, and man, I had a great time. Vic has lived in Seattle for 30 years, and somehow I've never crossed paths with him. But something very interesting does develop later on in this podcast conversation. Listen in and hear about it, and you'll definitely hear about it later on because I'm going to be blabbing my mouth about it. Vic has recently released an EP, Vic Bondi and His Issues, that is out now on Alternative Tentacles. It is his 27th release, which is incredible. 27 recordings before this. 26 before this, I guess, technically. The week of this podcast release, he will be touring down the West Coast as far, I think, as Santa Cruz, he said. So look for him in Portland, Santa Cruz. Maybe he's playing in Eureka. There's somewhere in Northern California he's playing. I don't remember. Eureka, maybe. Eugene. I don't know if he's... Listen, don't listen to me. I'm an authority on nothing, okay? Listen to the podcast. He'll lay it out. I had an amazing time talking with Vic. He's a super inspiring guy and a legend. So I hope you enjoy as much as I did, because I enjoyed it a lot. And go out and check out the record. It's so good for fans of punk rock music. Amazing. And he's got a killer Seattle band backing him up. Let's see, what else do I have to say to you? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. There's Patreon. If you have, some fuel in the tank and you want to support Couch Riffs, please, by all means, go do it. That's how we keep the lights on, and we do have lights to keep on. So, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching, listening, and as always, remember the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated, and don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Vic, welcome to Couch Riffs.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm very honored to be part of this because your resume is long. The people that you've had on the show are kind of amazing. I was listening to the Dickie Rossetti one that you had the other day because we play with Dick a lot. We're going out on tour with him in August.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He came up with this completely insane idea that my new band, Vic Bondi and His Issues, and his band would just play all these small towns in the center of Washington State. So we're playing like Moscow, Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, Walla Walla, Yakima, right? So we're just playing all these little bars in the center of the state. And I think it's normal for him because he's from Kennewick, so he knows the center of the state, right?
Right.
But for me, it's going to be like, wow, all right, let's go tour the hottest part of Washington State in August. That'll be excellent.
I think that Dick Rossetti is one of the true hidden jewels of Seattle. Now, I've been a fan of his since the 90s.
Yep.
And I think he's a genius. Yeah. I think he's one of the funniest people I know.
His stage presence is it just kills me. It's so great. It's so great. He's so droll. He really is. He's very he's always got a thing that he knows. He knows something that's going on. And then those songs are just great, right?
He's hilarious. He's amazing.
He's hilarious, right? What's the song that he's got about my dick's so tiny that I can't piss out of it? I don't know. It's so funny.
What?
Oh, God. He's got some song about small dicks, and it's hilarious. But he does it in such a self-deprecating way, right? Like everything he does is just kind of I don't know. It's really brilliant, and the music is really great. He's got that whole pop Buzzcocks thing going on that's really excellent. So.
He has the right influences.
Yeah. And this new band he's in with the two guys, just the three-piece, because I saw him when he was in the four-piece, and I much, much prefer the three-piece that he has now, where he's just doing all the guitar. And that bass player that he plays with he's
Really
tremendous.
good, yeah.
He's really a good player. He locks it all down. And then the wedge, it works. It's really good. It's a good band.
There was an iteration of band that he had where he played drums and sang, and he's a great drummer, like for real. And he had a microphone tech, so he could be rocking, and then when it was time to sing, someone would swing the microphone around for him, and then play a tambourine or whatever. It was really genius. It was a lot of fun.
His servant,
He
Mike
brings
servant.
the fun.
Oh, he is so great. I was Redshift played with him like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was like, who is this guy? He's fucking great. And then after that, I was like trying to get him on every bill, and my wife had not seen him, and then she finally saw him maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and she's like, this guy is amazing. Yeah. She was just like, oh my God, this guy's great. So yeah, he played, him and the Woodhavens played the show that was the first Vic Bondi and His Issues show that we played last month. And then we're going to replicate that same exact bill September 19th at the Kraken again. So
Awesome.
So you have to come down because it was such a blast this last time. So it was so much fun. He's like, he got the gig and he's like, I want to do the same show we just did. I'm like, okay, let's do it again. So, all right.
Dick, we love you, but it's time to move on.
We do love you, Dick.
Dick, you're welcome.
Great haircut, by the way. Love it.
Vic, this is where I usually start. And it's just because a lot of times it'll get the conversation rolling. But where are you from?
So my dad was in the service. And so I grew up all over the place. I was born in Hawaii. And my dad was stationed in the D.C. area a lot. So,
Quantico Virginia.
Yeah, he was in the Naval Security Group. So that's the spy agency for the Navy, and they had a spot on Pennsylvania Avenue. So we were in D.C. a lot when I was a kid, and then when I was a teenager, we moved to Pensacola, Florida, and my dad was the executive officer of Corey Field, which is the Navy's electronic warfare training center. And so Dad ran that base for about 4 years when I was in high school. So when I started playing music and when I was getting into music, I was living in Pensacola, Florida. But I'm not really from Pensacola. I was excited to get out of Pensacola the minute I could. So the minute I was out of high school, I moved north and I went to Illinois. And so I went to school in DeKalb for a little bit, and then I moved to Chicago, and that's where I was in my first real band. So
when you started getting into music, this is like 1978?
So because Dad was in the Navy, right, we didn't really have a lot of music. And my dad at the time was extremely conservative, so, really great Santini, sort of tough, My dad was a tough guy. He actually was a tough guy. And so he was a hard guy, but there was not music in our house, right? And the last thing my dad expected for me to do was play music. He expected me to go to the Naval Academy, which I did not do. And so we didn't have a lot of music when I was growing up. I was working at Kentucky Fried Chicken as a kid, 16, and there was this song on the radio that was really popular, and I liked it a lot. And it was called Band on the Run. And I was telling this guy, James, that I worked with, I'm like, I really like that song. And he goes, oh, if you like that song, you'd like his first band, the Beatles. They were really good. And I didn't know who the Beatles were. And then I went and got Beatles records, and then I was gone. That was my gateway drug to music.
Right.
So I mean, this is years after they had broken up. But like the minute that I discovered them, every record I got, I started playing guitar, listening. The first song I ever learned how to play was the Ballad of John and Yoko because it's in E minor. It's just strumming E minor, right, the whole time. Yeah, that was the start. And then, then it was a matter of like catching up where everybody else was at. So like now it's the Beatles, it's the Who, it's Led Zeppelin, it's all the classic Rolling Stones, it's all classic rock. Now I'm on this tear to catch up to where everybody else was who was my age and learn all this great music. And then we start hearing in 76 about this thing in London, punk. There was a Rolling Stone cover. We got Rolling Stone in Pensacola, and there was a Rolling Stone magazine cover that said, rock is sick and living in London or something like that. And it had Johnny Rotten on the front page. I'm like, what's this? Curious. And then, but there was no punk in Pensacola. And so we didn't hear it. And then the first Clash record was not released in the States, but the second one was, Give 'Em Enough Rope.
I love that record so much.
That record made it to Pensacola, and I found it in the store, and I'm like, okay, I want to check out this punk stuff. And Safe European Home, pop! I'm like,
God,
I am in. I'm in. This is it. I'm in. I'm all in. And after that, it was every punk record I could get. Ramones, Jam, Patti Smith, every Television, fucking Marky Moon, every punk record I could get. And I learned how to play every song on those records. So there's about 10 or 12 records that's how I learned how to play guitar, really, was listening to these records over and over. So Marky Moon, Road to Ruin, Give 'Em Enough Rope, All the Mod Cons, This Is the Modern World. These were the records that I listened to, and I learned every riff and every chord. And I would sit in my room after school, and I would imagine myself playing music and playing rock and roll, and windmills like Pete Townsend, right? Quadrophenia was another one that I learned every fucking riff on that record, right? So from that moment on, from Safe European Home on forward, I was full on. And then when I left Pensacola in 79 and I went to DeKalb, Illinois, that fall, my first semester at Northern Illinois University, the Clash were playing the Aragon Ballroom. So a bunch of us drove in. It's about 75, 80 miles from Chicago. This is 79.
So they're touring for...
This is their first U.S. tour, right? Pearl Harbor and the Explosions tour, right? Bo Diddley and the Undertones opening, right? At the Aragon Ballroom. And the Aragon stage is, it's about 7-8 feet off the floor. I was standing right in front of Paul Simonon the whole show. They came out, they played I'm So Bored with the USA, first song, right? And it was just like, oh my God, these guys are going to tear your face off. And they did. It was incredible. They did Encore, they did Armageddon Time, and Strummer he'd gotten a flashlight backstage and he had stuck it up under his shirt and like it orange glow on his face or this green glow on his face. And he's like, a lot of people don't get so supper tonight. And it was just so phenomenal. And like for me, that was the band I wanted to be Joe Strummer. Who wouldn't want to be Joe Strummer? He was like the coolest guy on the planet. And that was the band I wanted to be in. And, the really fortunate thing is that because Articles of Faith later on became kind of the premier hardcore band in the city, we got to meet them. So we got to go backstage at the next time they played into town because Biafra had introduced Strummer to us. And so then we went backstage and he was like, he was a very gracious, nice guy. All of those guys were really nice guys. And then I met him a few more times. I met him even after I was out of AOF when I was in Boston in grad school. He played the Paradise with the Earthquake Weather Tour, and he invited me over, and I hung out with him backstage. And it was great. I mean, they say you should never meet your heroes, but I did, and he was great. He was a terrific guy. So... But yeah, the Clash was the band that I wanted to be in. It resonated with me, not only the ferocity of the music, but the ferocity of the politics as well, right? So you can imagine me growing up in a super conservative military household. Rock and roll was my way out of that. And it was my way of saying, fuck you, I'm not going to do this. And it was really a way of distancing myself from my father it was a very fraught relationship. We had a hard time, like about a year there, where we didn't speak to each other. Later on, as I got older, my dad got older, everything changed quite a bit. My dad, as he got older, I think he saw a lot of the things that he had done in the military in a different perspective, partly because of the stuff that I said about, well, you're always fighting for rich men. They're the guys who are really benefiting from all this shit. And Dad kind of got it. And especially towards the end of his life, he was on the other side of that divide with me, and asphyxiatic and stroked out on his hospital bed, about to die. He could still look at Trump on TV and flip him off, man. It was fucking great, my dad. It's Father's Day, so yeah, my dad, he was a pretty interesting guy.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a long journey that I had with him, but he was a pretty interesting man. He was a short, tough, frickin' Sicilian dude, man. He was just like his father. His father was even tougher, but short Sicilian guys with attitudes.
What did he think when you brought that Clash album home and he heard it coming out?
Dad hated all of that shit. My mom would try and indulge it. She was the Beatles are very nice. Mom wanted to indulge it. Dad, he had none of it. He hated that stuff. He's like, the minute that I decided I wasn't going to the Naval Academy, Dad just wrote me off. Just, wow. He was really, Dad was very dismissive. But my uncles, my dad's brothers, who are also military guys, they were both Marines. You were in the Marines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were both Marines, and they had a different perspective. And my Uncle Jim helped get me into college, and then my Uncle Jack later on, he was, especially when I was touring Europe, my Uncle Jack was really great about helping me out when I was over there. I got sick on one European tour really badly, and my Uncle Jack put me up. I recovered at his house, and it was really, really excellent. So my uncles kind of offset to some extent my dad's intensity, and then they really helped me out a lot. So both my uncles did. They were great. So
you were already. What else was on before punk hit? The common story is everyone was also into Kiss and pre-politics Ted Nugent, because this was the.
Well, that was the stuff that was in high school. But remember, I'm a little bit out of step with everybody else because I'm playing catch up, right?
Right.
So the Who is new to me, right? Right. The Rolling Stones are new to me, right?
Right.
And for everybody else, they're I've moved on to. There was a radio station in Mobile, Alabama, that played album-oriented rock, and so there was all the crap that was on. There was so much crap on the radio. I still don't. I'm not a fan of Foghat and Foreigner. In retrospect, people are like, oh no, that's cool. That stuff always sucked, man. And Pablo Cruz, and there were so many bad bands in the 70s. Yacht rock sucks, man. This whole retrospective stuff where we're admiring yacht rock, fuck that. All that stuff was horrible. So that was another reason why when punk came, I'm like, this is the real shit, right? This is not Pablo Cruz. I mean, nobody ever came and played Pensacola except for Pablo Cruz. Harry Chapin came to Pensacola. So yeah. I saw Harry Chapin. That was my first concert, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah. Cats in the Cradle. You know it well. Yeah.
All too well. Yeah. All too well.
I don't know whether it's one of the greatest pieces of schmaltz ever written or what. I don't know. It's pretty good.
People love it.
Oh yeah, it's Father's Day. People are playing it all over the country right now, I'm sure.
We're on our third Father's Day reference.
Boy, man, some things hit hard, don't they? But yeah, I mean, I thought most of the music was horrible in the 70s. And so punk just was like a breath of fresh air. And even the new wave stuff, Elvis Costello, Talking Heads, man. First two Talking Heads albums are great. Remain in Light, the fourth one. Oh my God, yeah. That is a masterpiece of a music. It's just unbelievable. And when that record came out, nothing on earth sounded like that. There had never been a band that had ever sounded like that.
Well, it's also art.
Yeah. It was just so phenomenal. The way that they had taken those African riffs, they had inverted them and transformed them, and they had built the spirit of that music in with instrumentation that was completely different. Just genius. Just absolute genius record.
I think that it's not completely unlike Roxy music. I feel like they had to have been influenced by Roxy music.
Yeah, well,
right?
Eno was part of that project, right? I mean, they would have never made Remain in Light without Eno, for sure,
But
right?
even from the beginning, I would say.
Well, I mean, so the other thing that the other record I think is really genius that Eno's involved in is Heroes, the Bowie record, which again I caught on late, so I wasn't with it when it was first released, and then later on I catch up and I'm like, but again another record where when you heard it the first time you had never heard anything like that.
Right.
I mean, that was the thing about what Eno was bringing to the party were sonic pieces that had never been done before. And the history of rock and roll is really the history of musicians discovering some aspect of some sonic architecture built around 12-bar blues that was implicit in that form in the first place, but never expressed properly, right? And so it's really 12-bar blues when Chuck Berry's playing it. It's really 12-bar blues and honky tonk when Elvis is playing it. It's really 12-bar blues and pop and then classical when the Beatles are playing it, right? So what happens is one by one, these bands start to open up the sonic architecture of the 12-bar blues and discover something new about it. Eno was this guy who was discovering this kind of ambient sonic mist and attaching it to that form. But the thing about punk was, because punk was a reaction, the 77 punk was a reaction against the decadence of rock and roll.
Keyboard rock.
Right, keyboard rock, right? And Rick Wakeman, like I'm in a European cathedral playing fucking opera, like awful, like not very far away from 12-bar blues, by the way, right? Like he had there was that kind of classical turn that the Beatles opened up, and then some bands really went hard in that direction. I couldn't follow them there. I always disliked that prog rock shit a lot. But again, that's what punk was about. When the Ramones come along, they're like, nope, we're going back to 12 bars. We're going back to stripped down drum, 4 on the floor drums, bass and guitar. Boom, right? And here it is with the overlay of that pop, Joey Ramone's pop sensibility that he borrowed from the Beach Boys, right? So
I heard a recent argument that someone was saying the Ramones are an Americana band. They are not a punk band.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm not going to fight you on this.
No, I'll buy that. That works for me, right? That works for me. They were also one of the most exciting bands ever to see live. The first time I saw that band, they had a PA system that looked like a Saturn V engine, man. It was so huge.
Right.
And they were the loudest band I had ever heard. And they came out on stage, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, man, and boom. They're just pounding you, man. It was so great. But like the punk thing was getting back to that basic essence, right? And again, we're going to go back to the fundamentals here. The hardcore thing was about noise and speed. So the aesthetic elements that the Americans brought to that form, the things we were exploring, were speed and noise, right? And AOF did a pretty good job of exploring both of those elements. We had a lot of super dissonant, noisy shit going on in our music, and then we also were hyperspeed fast, right? So that, and then other bands, DRI, MDC, speed, right? Sonic Youth, noise, right? So then what happens is Husker Du, noise. Bob, he used to have this setup, the stereo setup on stage, so he would get that huge phased guitar thing going across the way. Nobody had ever played guitar like that. No one had ever sounded like that. Again, Bob invented this thing that was crazy great, right? And he would do it with open fingerings. Like he didn't really play chords. He would just play single or double notes, open end, and just, and it just worked. It was so great. But again, he was exploring noise and speed, like Land Speed Record, right? So what the Americans brought to the punk, well, I mean, the Ramones and Television were American, so was Patti Smith. But like the hardcore moment in punk was really about taking those two aesthetic principles and really opening them up. And then what you get after us is, you had bands that when rap comes along, they had a whole nother sonic space, again, built off that 12-bar mindset, where really they had started where James Brown had finished in that whole straightforward jam bolero mode that he had built up, and they added the overlay of that hyper-aggressive wordsmithing. So that was a new sonic space that people were perpetuating. And then in the 90s, you had Rage Against the Machine that was fusing those elements, right? And
they changed a lot.
Oh, I mean, and again, I had the good fortune to work with Tom. I mean, like that another genius, man, like another guy who's, again, no one had ever done that with guitar, right? So, and
really cool and inventive.
And inventive, right? So I had this, when I started working with him, I'm like, well, he must have like, you remember the guitar synthesizers, like the giant box, and
he had like 3 pedals.
He had like 3 pedals.
Yeah.
And he had a book. So what he did was, he couldn't remember what he had done to get the sounds. So he had this book where he would draw out for himself what he had his pedals set at and how he had managed to get the particular sounds that he had. And that book was the way that he would go back and replicate what he had done before. So every time he'd come up with a new riff, right, he would write it and document it in that book and come back with it. Is another genius. That guy is incredible.
Yeah, a whammy bar, a whammy pedal, and a kill switch.
Yep.
And a guitar pick. Yeah.
I mean,
it's easy to overlook things in the past because that has become a part of classic rock radio now.
Yeah, I know.
Rage Against the Machine, like it's everywhere, and people who were influenced by that have grandchildren.
Yeah.
Now, so it's like public domain almost, right? But it's easy to forget that he was the catalyst of that. Yeah. He is that.
And how new it was when he brought it to the table too, right? And then at the end of the 90s, it feels like a lot of the sonic terrain that could be explored had been explored by somebody, right? Like, I do feel like Tom and some of the other bands that were managing to fuse rock and rap, they had managed to join those two diverse sonic fields, but then that didn't leave a lot left, right? So the thing that happens, the punk stuff that we had done became formulaic, right? So
sure.
By the end of the 90s, a lot of the underground punk, or the punk that was derived from what we had done in 1983, had become very rote and formulaic. I didn't like a lot of it. I still don't like a lot of pop punk. I'm not a big pop punk guy. It doesn't, because it's very conservative, right? Like, it doesn't take a lot of chances musically. It doesn't take a lot of chances sonically. And it usually doesn't take a lot of chances lyrically or politically, right?
It's tidy.
But it's also dismissible. Right? Like, it's music for your bachelorette party, right?
Sure.
And I just...
Neener.
Yeah. I just can't... So, but part of it is because the terrain had been exhausted by their predecessors. So what's left for them to do, right? So we have, and I'm not saying these are horrible bands. I played with Derek Grant from Alkaline Trio in Dead Ending. He's another tremendous musician, and I like some of the Alkaline stuff, but like, it's not really my cup of tea because I don't feel like it's finding anything new. What you have at the end of the 90s is you have bands like Arcade Fire and some other bands. The only terrain left for them is orchestration. Right. So now you get bands with 15 people on stage, strings, horns, because the only thing left to explore in the space is complexity, right? And how can I orchestrate stuff, right?
Did you ever hear the Starlight Mints?
No.
really cool, noisy, kind of post-Pixies orchestral pop.
Yeah.
Really, I think that you would like it. There's a lot of crazy
Well,
sound.
you know, Greg Doley from Afghan Wids, he then forms Twilight Singers, and the Twilight Singers stuff is very orchestrated, right?
Very
Because
cool.
and he does horn charts really well, but like that again, there's only so much sonic space available for people to explore, right? And so now I don't really know where a lot of bands go to find that piece that's new. Now there are bands that are doing stuff with computers that are really interesting. You know, I did think a lot of Radiohead stuff was always really interesting. The Kid A record, right? The stuff where they really go heavy into the sampled units and the triggers, I thought was genius. Because again, no one had ever done it before, right? So they enlist the machines to make this noise, and it's phenomenal. But I don't know where a lot of bands go now. One reason a lot of bands are going back to pedals is because there's still some space to explore in those pedals, right?
Sure.
And you can pull up this stuff that's unique. Like I was telling you about in the car, my daughter's boyfriend's in this band, Tired Horses in New York, and the guitarists, he's a guitarist in that band. They don't play guitar. They're not strumming. It's not a percussive instrument like it is in most rock and roll. They're doing the Eno thing with ambient sound, and they're building these giant soundscapes that this saxophonist just riffs across. And that is awesome. So I think, you know, there'll still be people hunting, you know, these explorers looking for terra incognita are still out there. People are going to still do it. But like, you know, I feel like that's the adventure of rock and roll. That's the adventure of music is finding that space. The other thing is, for me always was, there's a thing about the way in which rock and roll enlists the mechanisms of capitalist production to fight against capitalist production. And I mean this at the technology level, right? So that Marshall head, right? The sonic array that comes through making money, but these bands put it to the service of screaming about having to make money, right? That was again the Clash, right? You know, oh boy, Death or Glory, right? Like they understood that you use those tools to free yourself from its slavery, right? From its service, right? You use the technology that would enslave you to liberate yourself from the technology.
All right, we're getting in the weeds, so let's just get all the way in the weeds. I mean, do you think that's actual, like, I understand the struggle for that and the desire for that, but do you think that it's possible?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Like, again, what Cam and his friends are doing in Brooklyn, right? They're finding a way out of that space. They don't make any money with that, right? I mean, that's me neither, right? I've hardly ever made any money with music, right? That's not why I do it,
Right.
right?
It should never be your primary motivator.
I mean, it never is actually for my friends who have been very successful in music. It was never their primary motivator,
Right.
It was a side effect of the popularity of what they were doing, but it was, you know, Tom doesn't think about how he can write a hit record. He just writes them.
Right.
Right. And neither does Bob, and neither did Dave Pirner. I mean, that totally took him by surprise. I guarantee you that. So like, no, most people have a sense of a kind of quiet unease in the world that we live in. It's become more manifest now because Trump is making it so overt. But even before Trump, there was a sense like I have to do things I don't want to do in order to make a living, right? I have to compromise this and I have to compromise that and I have to subordinate myself to this, right? And people want a way out of that, right? Like those 12-bar blues, they started with slave chants in the field, man. And that was a way of liberating yourself from that moment, right? And then later it's a way of expressing yourself in the juke joints in the Mississippi Delta. They're playing stomp music to get past their daily lives. And the same thing was true in the punk bars in O'Banion's in Chicago in 1981, right? Like, we had shitty jobs in a shitty, dismal town, right? Jane Burns, Chicago. What a dirt-infested dump, right? And, we would go down to the bar and here's Husker Du, wall of sound, right? Boom. Like, man, now I'm free for 2 hours. Good. Right? I'm there. Naked Ray Gun. Now I'm free for 2 hours. Right?
Right.
So you take that, the musicians take these technologies and they open up a space that didn't exist. Right? That's the thing about why music is implicitly political, right? You're making something of nothing. When you make something out of nothing, you implicitly are taking issue with the way things are.
Never thought about it that way, but I would agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take me back to arriving in DeKalb and putting together your first band, and the energy and the momentum that built.
Well, I'm trying to learn how to play, right? So in the history of every musician, it's a 3-step program. You learn to master your instrument, you learn to master playing with other people, and then you learn to master playing with an audience.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get one of those right at some point.
And I'm learning how to play. So I'm first learning how to play my own guitar. I'm still trying to figure it out. And then I'm also learning how to play with other guys. So the first band that I was in DeKalb was this band called Direct Drive. And it was a punk band. And, we would play covers. We played Sex Pistols, Damned, Clash, Blondie. Played a lot of covers, played some original stuff. So I'm starting to write music. They're only punk band in DeKalb. There's another punk band in Sycamore, Illinois, which is about 10 miles down the road, the Subverts. And so Direct Drive would go play in Subvert's basement, and then we would swap songs and fun. And that was our scene, man. And, there was a bunch of punks at the college, and the head of the school, it had concert committee. The head of the concert committee was part of our scene. So this guy brought the Ramones to campus. He brought the Police to campus. He brought Iggy Pop to campus.
Wow.
On the Soldier tour, man. And Iggy was fire. It was incredible. So there was a thing happening, but like, I couldn't stay in DeKalb and play punk rock. So in 1981, me and the guitar player in Direct Drive, Joe Scuderi, we moved to Chicago. Joe was from Chicago, and we are like, now we're going to form a band in the city. And we met this drummer, Bill Richmond, and he was playing in this Bruce Springsteen cover band called Thunder Road. And we jammed with him and then the bass player in Thunder Road, but the bass player was this incredibly good musician, way too good to play with us, and really a jazz player. And so he didn't stay around long. And then we put an ad in the paper, and this guy came down the stairs, walked down the stairs into the basement, and from the minute I met him, I liked him. And that's Dave Shields, and he became the bass player in AOF. He's still probably my best friend. I really love the guy. And, but like, that was the band. And then later on, in 83, when we started playing really, really fast, we were playing too fast for me to play guitar and sing at the same time. So we brought in Dorian Tajbash to play second guitar. And so we had a brief period where it was the 5 of us, but me just singing. But then I'm like, I could play guitar too. Let's do the 3 guitar thing. So that's when we probably became the first 3 guitar punk rock band in the country.
How many have there been?
There hasn't been hardly any. I'm
Right.
sure of it, right? And so we would, and it was either a really great thing or a really horrible thing, because this is before electronic tuners. So I mean, like, you can imagine an AOF show, like, we're pounding, and then boom, stop. Blarm, 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 blarm. Yeah.
One of my best friends has a punk band, and he still like will not use a tuner. He plugs straight in, and he makes everyone listen to him tune. It's like I think he enjoys it.
Well, I mean, I think they're, again, it's transformative, those tuners when they came in. I mean, I mean, a lot of Articles of Faith shows were out of tune. If you look online, if you look on YouTube at Clash concerts,
Oh, sure.
they're always out of tune. They're always out. Almost every Clash video is out of tune because it didn't exist and the Clash didn't fucking care. They're like, so what? Let's
go.
Burn the government down, white riot, right? Like
Sure.
that was fine. They were too stressed to worry about tuning. But
what is the punk scene like in Chicago, and what is it like the first time you go on tour, moving around the country, especially through the Midwest?
Well, we were outside of the scene. Mm-hmm. So the original punk scene in Chicago, it goes back to like 77. There was a punk scene in 77 around this gay bar called Le Mur Vampire and Le Mur Vipère, I'm sorry. And but it was very arty, right? So it wasn't really in the city. The center of the punk scene in Chicago was in Evanston, the northern suburbs where Northwestern University is. And it was a lot of the sons and daughters of college professors who were really into it, right? And the first real punk thing in the city was this rotating bar called Oz. And Oz would show up in different places at different times. And a different group of musicians would play together: Da, Silver Abuse, Effigies, Naked Ray Gun. So there's a great record. There's a compilation record called Busted at Oz, which captures all this. And I mean, some of the stuff is really great. I mean, the first time I saw the Effigies was at Oz, and it was this little tiny room, and the place was absolutely jammed, and they were like stuck in this corner. And I mean, literally everybody's on top of them. And Earl just fires up that Stratocaster, and it was like, guns are ballots for you. I mean, I was like, wow. I was so knocked out. But it was really sophisticated, and I wasn't a sophisticated guy, right? And so when Direct Drive relocated to Chicago and started playing as Direct Drive, we were really outside of that scene and not embraced by it at all, right? There was a bunch of outsider bands that played at this place called Space Place, which was converted meat lockers in the meat packing district, and it was so you practiced in a meat locker, which was wild because the minute you shut that door, the temperature raised 1,500 degrees. There wasn't a single air vent in that place, right?
Right.
But it also had a performance space. So it was us and DV8, this really good band, DV8, Urban Decay. There were all these outsider bands that weren't really embraced by that kind of upper middle class, but posed as working class,
right, Evanston
scene, and was Naked Ray Gun fit in great because Jeff was such an hardy guy. But he is a tremendous person, a real kind of a visionary kind of character too. He could effortlessly span art and punk and make it work, right? But it was kind of snooty, so we had to kind of find our own way. And in fairness, Direct Drive was still very Clash derived, right? Like I was still trying to write like I was Joe Strummer, and I hadn't yet found my own voice. And my parents had relocated back to D.C. Dad was stationed again in D.C., and my sister was living with them. And so when I would go home at Christmas, she would take me to the 930 Club, and that's how I met Ian and Scream and all the guys in that, John Stab and all the guys in that scene. And I came back from D.C. in 81 and back to Chicago, and I felt like we needed to change what AOF was doing, and we needed to make it more definitively our own. And so we actually kind of set aside some of the more blues-based punk that we were trying to rip off from the Clash, and we started going really fast, and we started exploring the reggae shit that Bill liked so much. And
did you see Bad Brains when you were in
yes,
DC?
so I saw the Bad Brains in the winter of '81 with Faith at the 930 Club, and it was the best concert I had ever seen in my life. It was better than the Clash. It was just I mean, they were untouchable, man.
If I had a time machine and I could go back and do anything, like it might be to go back and see them at that point.
Well, and that was AOF's coming out. AOF's coming out. Once I went back to Chicago, we changed the name of the band. We started trying to find our own sound. And then we had 2 shows that really put us on the map. One was opening up for the Dead Kennedys, which was great. And the other one was opening up for the Bad Brains. And the Bad Brains stayed with us.
As outsiders, how did you manage that? How did you...
We decided to do it ourselves. So
we
put on our own shows. So we did play the clubs like, with the Bad Brains was at Club COD. And the Dead Kennedys opening was at Metro. But our big thing was we put on our own shows. So we rented the Central American Social Club that was up on Broadway, and it was owned by these Honduran guys. And they had a big ballroom, and their rule was, yeah, you can rent it. Don't trash the place, no alcohol. And we're like, great, no problem. And we bring in all the lights, all the sound equipment. Who played the Central American Social Club with us? Minor Threat, MDC, Big Boys, Channel 3. I mean, we managed to grab some of the best punk bands in the country and played that space.
Wow.
And then it became a thing. I mean, that became the place to go and see music. And, Naked Raygun played there, right? So like then it was different. And then also the Effigies, we had a famous feud with the Effigies, and I like to think that I put it to bed in 2010 when AOF did their return to the Riot Fest. When we did the Riot Fest festival there, I had a talk with Steve Economo and the guys from the band, and I was like very apologetic about kind of it was a diss festival between me and Keds D in those days, and me and Albini in those days, and like in retrospect, it didn't bring anything of value to the table, right? The Effigies were a great band. Like that first album, Haunted Town, still I have it. It's an amazing record. And again, I had never heard anything like that. That those guitars, they just churned, man. They were just marvelous. But the Effigies also, they didn't move off of that sound much. And they were conservative. Their politics weren't reactionary, which is what I always tried to paint them, but they weren't. They were just conservative. They didn't have the same experimental ethic that AOF had, but that's okay, right? But the problem with it is it got tired pretty fast. And when AOF built that scene, all the young bands, Negative Element, End Result, Rights of the Accused, Life Sentence, they all gravitated into our scene, and we gravitated into their scene, and that became the scene in Chicago. And so then there was this famous event where the Effigies played Tuts and all these bands showed up, and Kedzie was slagging people from the stage because he's such a contrarian and he's bad-mouthing people, and everybody sits down on their hands. Right? And he accused me of fomenting that, and I had nothing to do with it, man. That's you pissing people off by being such an asshole, right?
You said you had beef with Albini too?
Yeah, I did. I did have beef with Albini because Albini didn't like AOF because AOF was very, very loud political band. Our politics were right there, man. I was like, no, fucking capitalism sucks. Fuck that, man. Like I wanted to burn it down. I'm all in favor. But I think, again, Albini, especially in those days, was almost reactionary. He's coming from Montana. He's going to Northwestern. Very smart man.
Sure.
But also a dick of major proportions, and a guy just
No secret.
a guy that just lived to piss people off, right? So he and I had a big beef. I let him play the Central American Social Club, Big Black, and he slagged it. And I'm like, motherfucker, like, this is the best scene in the city. I let you play in an effort to mend fences, and all you do is badmouth me. And I was always very fast with my fists in those days. But anyway, I didn't fight him, and I didn't, but it was not a good thing. Now, the later Albini, the Albini in the last 10 years of his life or last 15 years of life, everything I read online, I was like, wow, man, I'm down. And I actually had it in my mind that I had this idea that someday in the future, I would call up Steve Albini. I'm like, hey man, why don't you do my record?
Yeah.
My next record, right? And that would shock everybody, right? And he would have done it at the end of his life, but like, sadly, didn't happen. So, yeah.
I do admire a lot of what he made. He was pretty bold with his choices. He was aggressively going after noise and speed. Yeah.
Right. And did a good job with it. I will say, I don't care for his production. The records that he did, I thought his production was always it's very flat and tinny. It's a little bit like Ted Nicely, another guy who people love Ted Nicely's production, but I don't like Ted's. I like the Jawbox record, For Your Own Special Sweetheart. It's all mid-range, man, and I just can't. I don't know. It doesn't have the dimension that I want in it. So I never really liked Steve's. I know but he was also at the end of his life. He was famously generous to people. We have a lot of friends in common in Chicago. And I wish I had known him at the end of his life, because I think I would have liked that guy a lot better than the guy that I knew.
Right.
It's
funny how years will give you that perspective.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
I mean, the way I managed to reconcile myself with my father, and again, like I said, there's the new Effigies band is touring the country, and we're going to play with them at the fest in October. So
Great.
I'm actually looking forward to it. I don't know whether they put us on the same bill with them or not, but I hope they did, because I think that would be awesome if we played on the same bill with the Effigies. I don't know how that. I'm curious. The Kedzie brothers are both dead, so I don't know how that band works without them, because they were instrumental in it. And Pierre Kedzie, who was the bass player in Effigies, was a famously wonderful person, really, a really decent guy. And even in the middle of all that shit between our bands, he was always a very personable person. Like he was a sweetheart of a human being, and everybody who ever knew him will tell you that. He was really a great guy.
What about your first jaunt around America in a van?
Ha! The first time I ever went across the Mississippi River, yeah. It was a tour of Canada.
Oh.
Yeah. Our first tour out of Chicago, we went, so the way it worked back then was there was a sheet that got passed from band to band that had started with DOA, and then Black Flag had added to it, and then MDC had added to it, because those were the bands that pioneered, where you were going to play and how you were going to play.
They created the map.
And there were two places to play in Canada that everybody raved about. One was Winnipeg and the other was Calgary. In Calgary, you played for a week at the Royal Calgarian Hotel, right? So you're in residence.
Wow.
And the Royal I'm like so excited to do this. So we have this tour set up where we're going to go play. We're going to play a week in Winnipeg at self-starter shows in Winnipeg with bands like Personality Crisis and Stretch Marks, these terrific Canadian bands. And then we're going to go on to Calgary, and we're going to play at the Royal Calgarian, this famous MDC's like, yeah, you got to play there. It's an amazing place to play, right? My first time across the Mississippi, I'd never been west of the Mississippi. We go north. We go to north of Fargo to cross at Minot, North Dakota into Canada, and the papers aren't ready. So now we go, actually on this trip, it was just Calgary. We played Winnipeg on a different trip. On this trip, it was just Calgary. And so now we don't have our papers ready. So we drive this, I think it's US 2, that's right along the Canadian border.
Okay.
Over to Sweetgrass, Montana, where the other crossing is, south of Calgary, because it takes a day, so then our papers would be ready the next day, right? We were hoping, right? And so now I'm driving through the flat, epic, mythic America, right? Like long fields of wheat, right? Crystal blue skies with not a cloud in it, right? You can see down in the arroyos, there's the huts of the pioneers. I mean, literally dirt shacks where they had lived, right? There's also occasionally you'll go past one of those missile installations where the nukes are, the interballistic missile bases, right? And so this is our first trip. We get to Sweetgrass. Our papers aren't ready. So now we have to stay overnight in Sweetgrass. What's in Sweetgrass? A gas station, a bar, and the customs station, right? All right. So we're like, all right, we'll go to the bar. So we go over to the bar and we're having some drinks and we're talking to the guy and telling him our situation. He's like, the owner of the bar is like, well, why don't you guys play here tonight? Right? And we're like, well, okay. He's like, well, I'll tell you what, we do have a band playing, but I'm sure they'd let you be their opener. And he's like, Bob Hansen and the Montana Linemen are playing here tonight.
Is that the actual?
That's the name of the band. Bob Hansen and the Montana Linemen are playing here tonight. You should ask them when they arrive if you guys want to open up for them, right? And so we're thinking, oh, this is going to be great. This town's in the middle of nowhere. What is it going to be, like 5 people here? Fuck, this is going to be excellent, right? Bob Hansen and the Linemen come in, and they're like these big burly dudes with beards and cowboy hats, and they're like, all right, you guys are from Chicago, huh? Okay. Why don't you play a set? That sounds great. Why don't you do that? And I'm like, okay, excellent. So we're thinking we're going to play for these cowboys in Montana, and it's not going to be anybody. It's a Sunday night too, right? So we're like, there won't be anybody here. The place was fucking packed. People drove like 60, 80 miles to see Bob Hansen and the Montana. So there's like 350 people in this bar, right? To see this band.
And they are a country band.
They're a country band.
Yeah.
Right? And so now we're going to play for like 350 country fans in a bar in the middle of Montana, right? On the northern border of Montana. And so we just get up there. Right? I'm doing my thing. By the score! Right? And
crickets.
The bar divides into thirds. A third of the people move all the way to the back. Just like, holy shit, I don't want anything to do with this. A third of the people in the middle are just stunned. I don't know what to think. And the third in the front, who are really fucking drunk, are loving it. They're just like, yeah, right?
This is amazing.
So, and we get done, and then Bob Hansen comes on. Bob Hansen gets there with the band. He's like, well, how about that band from Chicago, Articles of Faith? Thank you so much for sharing your music with us. Now we got one for the rockers from Chicago. Let's hit it, boys. China Grove. And they launch into the Doobie Brothers China Grove, and they played it for the rockers from Chicago. It was fucking great, man.
Wow.
Bob Hansen and the Montana Linemen. Yeah, the best. The best.
You should see if Bob Hansen's still around.
That is a great idea. I really should, because I don't know whether they remember that night the way that I remember it. But man, it was indelible for us. It was an incredible night.
And then the next day your papers were ready?
Next day papers were ready. We go up to Calgary. And it turns out, so the Royal Calgarian is a bordello.
Oh.
So the way this works is it's a hotel that faces the main street. And Calgary is, and these days especially, it's a oil town. Right? And the Roughnecks, they have a cafe in the front of the hotel, and the girls sit along the window sipping their coffee, and the Roughnecks come outside. They look in, they pick the girl, they come inside, the girl goes to the decks, and they meet them, and they go upstairs. And the rooms that we're staying in, because they give us a room for the week, right, are adjacent to all the fucking. Yeah. So it's a cat house, and I'm 20 years old, and I'm like, I'm so intimidated, man.
Sure.
I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy.
What the
right?
hell?
And then you played down in the basement, and it was this long, narrow room. And again, the room divides by thirds. So about a third of the room are roughnecks from the oil fields, and they're just getting hammered. So they don't care that you're playing thrash. There's a third in the middle that are punk rockers from the scene. They're all there to have a great time playing punk rock and moshing. And then a third are Indians from the reservations that are nearby.
Right.
So it's so, but man, some nights the tension in that room was pretty audible, especially between the roughnecks and the Indians.
Because it's a week straight.
Yeah. It's a week straight. Yeah. Every night. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine there would be some tensions in that room.
Yeah, it wasn't. We had this roadie, Phil Lawrence, and he had a mohawk. And the last night of our stint there, Phil's like zooming around or whatnot, and this one Indian guy, this native guy, he just comes over and he just buttonholes him against the wall. He says, "You don't look Indian to me."
Right.
He says, "I think I'll scalp you." Right. And he's just bullshitting. He's just bullshitting the kids, right? But
Sure.
like Phil just goes white, and like we grab him and like hustle him out of there. And like the Indians, those native guys, they had us so fucking intimidated. It was incredible. So yeah, the whole Royal Calgarian thing was young man super intimidated by life.
I rarely think about the fact that the punk mohawk is an appropriated,
Yeah.
is appropriated fashion.
It is appropriate. It is cultural appropriation. Yeah.
I guess shame on me for that, for not
Yeah.
even thinking about that.
So then we come back from Calgary and we stop at Devil's Tower, and we have that our moment before that incredible piece of geology. So it was really, that was my first trip west of the Mississippi, my first trip out of the country. Well, I'd gone to Niagara Falls with my parents, but like it was really something. And then we started national tours. So we did all sorts of national tours. We played up here. We didn't play Seattle. We played Portland. And when we again, another one of these Canadian trips. So we started in Winnipeg and drove across Calgary, and then went to Vancouver, and we played in Vancouver. And then we drove down to Portland, and as we were going to play a show with Poison Idea. And as we pull into the club, we hear this massive thunk. And like, what the fuck is that?
Oh no.
And we look under the van. We had this Ford Econoline van. And the front wheel chassis had broken half, like that.
The axle.
The axle had broken half. And all I could think is, if that had happened on Trans-Canada 1 going through the Rockies, we would be dead, right?
Yeah.
But now, this band that has to decide between gas or food almost every gig has a van that's completely dysfunctional. So what are we going to do? We have this roadie, Steve Ross, that's with us, and this is the best roadie on the planet. Steve can fix anything. So what Steve did is he went to a machine shop and he machined 2 steel plates. He drilled a hole in the floor of the van, and he put one steel plate under the axle and the other steel plate on the top of the floorboard.
He braced it.
And then he just winched it up till it came back together. He drove it to a junkyard, and he arc welded the van back together.
Wow.
Steve Ross.
Did he do that in a single day?
No, it took like a week, and we stayed at this punk rock house in Portland. And there's a guy who lives here now, Bruce Jack. I don't know if you know Bruce, because he plays in some bands in town. But like Bruce, that's where I first met Bruce, at the Portland punk rock house where we stayed that week.
Wow.
Yeah. And then that was a great thing about punk rock in those days. People would, they put you up for a week in a situation like that, right?
Right.
We slept on Tim Johannen's floor. We slept on Husker Du's floor. We slept at Biscuit's house in Austin. Everybody slept at my house. We had a 2-story building in Chicago called Big Blue because it had all this blue siding on the side, and it was a huge unit. And the band had the total. There were 4 apartments in it. The 2 apartments in the bottom never got rented. The band owned the 2 apartments above, and then there was a common attic space where Articles of Faith practiced. And occasionally we put on a show there too. And that was really the punk rock. That was the Discord house for Chicago.
Right.
So yeah. It was pretty good.
What a time.
Was great. I mean, I can't think of a better way to waste your youth, man. It was awesome.
But not wasted.
No, not wasted. I mean, like, I have these stories. I can tell stories like this all night. I have more stories than you can imagine. But like, what do you want after a lifetime, right?
Right.
You know?
Memories.
Yeah, that's all you get at the end. Everything else fails, right?
You.
Yeah.
You leave behind your energy.
Yeah. Well, and the records, right? Like, and hopefully those records can, inspire other people to pick up stuff. It often surprises me how much not just Articles of Faith, but all the bands I'm in have a fan base of one type or another, and some ardent followers. And so, like in this new band, this is the first band where I've toured under my name, and where we're playing my back catalog. So we're playing Articles of Faith, Jones Very, Alloy, Report Suspicious Activity, Dead Ending, Redshift, and the new stuff that I've made for this band. So, yeah, all of it.
Great.
Yeah.
What about your non-musical life?
It's another insane story, man.
Let's go.
All right. I mean, all right. So I went to graduate school. So I was not sure that like rock and roll was going to pay out. I didn't want to eat government cheese the rest of our lives. I don't know if you remember in the 80s the Reagan administration
I grew up
blocks.
on that.
Yeah, government cheese, right? I didn't want to eat government cheese the rest of my life. So I went to graduate school. So I went to BU, Boston University in Boston, and I got a doctorate in history. And a
doctorate?
Yeah, a PhD. So it took about 6 years, 7 years. And I didn't play music for most of that. Towards the end of it, when I was writing my dissertation, I got into Jones Very. And so then Jones Very started to play in Boston. We were a Boston band. And we did the records. But I was in graduate school. I graduated in 93. I went and taught at the University of New Hampshire. My first job as an associate professor there paid $24,000 a year. Right. Which it isn't much now, and it wasn't much then either. Right. And so now I have a situation where I'm really struggling to make ends meet financially, and I don't have tenure. Associate professors don't have tenure. Right. So I'm teaching a lot of classes. I loved my classes. I loved the students there and at BU and at UMass Boston where I taught. I taught Vietnam War. I taught American History Survey. I taught intellectual history. I taught these great classes called American Decades, where I would look sort of across specific decades. And they were American Studies classes, which we would look at the politics, the economics, the books, the art, the movies, the music of whatever decade that we were talking about. And then, but I'm making no money, and just living hand to mouth. So then this colleague of mine said, well, there's this company in South Carolina that will pay you to write encyclopedias. And I'm like, okay. So they had an encyclopedia series called American Decades, which was the survey that I was teaching. So that book, they would give you $25,000, and you could either take all that $25,000 and write the full decade yourself, or you could farm out pieces of it to others, but you had to pay them out of your $25,000. And these are very substantial books. They're like 2,500 pages, right? They're big, thick tomes, right? And they exist. You can buy them on Amazon. They're called American Decades, and you'll see I wrote 4 of them. And so,
which decades did you?
I did the 30s, the 40s, the 40s, the 70s, and the 80s. Yeah, those were the decades I did. And they're in all these libraries, right, all around all around the world, actually. Once when I went to the Frankfurt Book Show, they had our books there. But anyway, I did them basically to pick up the money because I really needed the cash. Just couldn't make enough to get by. And so then I'm still at the University of New Hampshire a couple of years later, and this colleague says, hey, I got a call from a guy at Microsoft, and he asked me if I know anybody that has an encyclopedic knowledge of the 20th century. And he's like, well, my buddy Vic just wrote an encyclopedia series on the 20th century. So I got in touch with these guys at Microsoft. I didn't know anything about Microsoft or computers. I had written my dissertation on a computer, but I didn't really know much about computers. And so before I know it, I'm flying out here and I'm consulting as a subject matter expert on this project that Microsoft was going to do. They were going to do a CD-ROM on the 20th century. This is 1995. And it's going to be the history of the 20th century. And I meet all these people who are artists and programmers and product managers, and they're showing me these director files with men bouncing on the moon and video and audio and text. I had never seen interactive media like this in my life. I was just absolutely astonished. And I'm like, wow, this is a great project to be part of. I was so excited. I flew back to Boston. I'm mapping out how this CD-ROM is going to work in my mind, how we're going to put it together content-wise and all this other stuff. I get back and I get a call from the program manager, Paul Shustak. He's like, hey, I got good news and bad news for you. I'm like, okay, give me the bad news first. He's like, the project's canceled. Oh, wow. That's a bummer, man. What's the good news? He's like, they really like you and they want you to come out and interview for a job at Microsoft. I'm like, well, I don't have tenure. I'm not making very much money. Okay, I come out. I interview at Microsoft. 2 days, 14 people. Any of those 14 people give me a no hire, I'm not hired. And it's like, again, I don't know anything about computers, but they're giving me the logic tests and the whole array of shit. They don't ask me to write code because I don't know anything about code, right? But all these logic problems. What did they ask me? How to count windows in a building? Why are manhole covers round? Stuff like that, right? And so I do the interviews.
Why are they round?
So that they won't fall. A square one will fall in, right? It's the only.
Oh, yeah, right. It could fall in if it was angled.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm like, I go back to Boston, and I tell the recruiter Elliot, I'm like, look, you got to make me a job offer before Labor Day, because once I was teaching in the fall at UMass Boston. And I'm like, once I'm teaching, I have an obligation to the students. I can't leave. So if you're going to make me a job offer, make it to me before Labor Day when school starts. Okay, I got it. Roll into August. I don't hear anything from them. Get to the end of August. Don't hear anything from them. So I figure, I didn't get the job. My girlfriend and I go out to Cape Cod for the Labor Day holiday, right? I get back to Boston. I have one of those old phone machines with a cassette in it.
Sure.
Press the button. Beep. Hey, it's Elliot from Microsoft. Want to let you know everybody here really loved you. We want to make you a job offer at Microsoft. Beep. Hey, it's Elliot. You didn't get back to me. I wanted to let you know your starting salary is going to be this. Give me a call back. Beep. Hey, it's Elliot. You didn't get back to me. Let me let you know, in addition to the starting salary that we offered you, we're going to give you 2,000 shares of stock. Beep. Hey, it's Elliot. You didn't get back to me. I want to let you know, in addition to 2,000 shares of stock, we're going to give you another 1,000 shares of stock. Beep. Hey, it's Elliot. You didn't get back to me again. We're going to give you 6 months or 6 weeks of vacation a year right at the start. Beep. So my entire contract was negotiated by my phone machine with Microsoft.
But you're not answering the phone.
So I got this,
and Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, and Martha's Vineyard. So I got the Cape Cod. So I got this great job offer, and and then October 6, 1995, I moved out here and started at Microsoft. I worked there for 15 years.
Wow.
And I've been in the software industry ever since. Yeah.
That's how you ended up in Seattle.
That's how I ended up in Seattle.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you would have never imagined. That's a great, amazing story. I always think to myself, like, people who have an unflinching drive for a singular thing. I don't like you miss out on so much. Like if you were stubborn
Yeah.
and you're like, I'm going to stick it out here, it might have fallen apart on you.
Well, I mean, one thing was it was easy to leave because I had been rejected by like 425 universities for tenure, right? Like I applied for so many jobs. I still have the stack of rejection letters. The closest I got was at Michigan. Was the only time that I actually almost had a tenure track job, but I didn't get a tenure track job anywhere. Mostly because my dissertation really sucked. It was really badly written and wasn't good. But like, that made it kind of easy to choose Microsoft and take the leap into the unknown. But I don't know. I've never understood people who are like from age 8 they wanted to be a doctor, right?
Or a lawyer
Or a lawyer,
whatever.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like, how do you
No.
know?
I mean, my life took so many left turns, man, and just unexpected. It's really been a hell of an adventure.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have as many great stories about software as I do about music, man. I mean, the very first thing I did with Microsoft was go down to Los Angeles and represent Microsoft with Patty Stonecipher before Jeff Katzenberg and Geffen. So they wanted to do a digital version of the Bible. I kid you not, man. They wanted to do a digital version of the Bible built around that movie, The Prince of Egypt, which was the movie they were making then. And they took us to the lot at Universal, and they showed us the cells. They showed us how they made everything.
Wow.
And they sat us at this table, and Jim Cox and I, who were the two guys who were on point for that project, we'd already done the evaluation, and we were like, there's no way that this pencils out and makes any sense financially, so we're not going to do it. And we had told Patty that. She was a vice president at the company, and we had told Patty that. And she's like, okay, we won't do it. But we had to take the meeting with them anyway, right? So we go into this meeting.
And what a cool meeting to take.
Oh, and with Jeff Katzenberg, who in those days is the guy in Hollywood, right? And he comes in, everybody's like, hello, Jeffrey, hello, Jeff. And he sits down right next to me.
Yeah.
Right? And so then they start the meeting, and then we're going through this, and Katzenberg's talking about how he's got the Pope to endorse the Bible that he's going to put out. And I'm like, there's no way the Pope is going to endorse this Bible. That's bullshit. But like, he's doing this, and they get to the point, because it was us, it was Penguin Press, it was DGK or whatever, DreamWorks Consolidated, whatever they called it in those days. Like, it was this big joint project. And we get to, well, what is Microsoft's position on this project, right? Because we were going to do the disc, the CD-ROM of Prince of Egypt Bible, right? And we'd already decided against it. And he looks at Patty, and Patty goes, I think I'll have my expert, Vic Bondi, speak to this. I've been with the company for like 2 weeks, man. Like 2 weeks, right? And I got to tell the most famous Hollywood producer in the country that we're not going to do a project with them.
Right there.
He's sitting right next to me. And I'm like, well, we've done the analysis, and in our estimation, we find this to be a very problematic project. Right? And he looks at me, and he never says a word after that. Like, that's it. He's done with me and Microsoft, right?
If they wanted it bad enough, they could have underwritten it.
Well, and the thing is, they tried to go at it later on by reaching out to Gates directly, and he's like, "No, whatever Patty told you is what's the policy of the company." So, like, literally, Jeff Katzenberg's calling Bill Gates and telling him, like, your peon guy that you just hired told me that it doesn't make any business sense to do this project, and he's like, "Yeah, that's right."
Yeah, that business has gone where it's gone, not because of one person, because of all the people he's put in place over the years.
I couldn't get over it. I mean, really, Microsoft was a really impressive company to work for in those days. And I didn't know anything about computers, but they trained me. They gave me so much training and education. You know, I have this skill set now that I've utilized. I haven't been at Microsoft in 15 years, right? So I've used it subsequently everywhere for a bunch of different companies. And, and I owe it really to them giving me having the faith. In those days, there weren't enough computer programming schools in the country to hire computer programmers. So they would just hire people, the people I worked with, anthropologists, museum curators. One of the best program managers at Microsoft, Jim Oker, was a museum curator, right? They would hire people based on what, if they thought that you had the intellectual skill to make it at the company and you could learn the technology, they would hire you.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who've worked there over the years, and a lot of people who, it worked out well for them, like yourself, that got in there early.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was transformative. It's not the same company now. I don't have the same affect for that company that I do. I mean, I'm a pretty anti-corporate guy for a guy who spent 50 years working for the biggest software corporation in the world. But I don't have the same affection. I mean, I knew Satya when he worked there too. But I don't know. Corporations don't give a fuck about you, man. Like, that's the bottom line. And they didn't give a fuck about me at the end of the day. So,
there's no place for you on a spreadsheet.
And I think I was there at a very unique period. Gates had this feeling that the computer industry was built on talent when he was, for that 5 years that he was there and I was there at the same time. He really believed that you had to invest in people because they made the difference. But subsequent to his departure, like, that changed. Sure. And they hired in people that I never would have expected to have worked at Microsoft. They brought out their calculators. They changed their compensation structures and their packages. They're just like every other fucking company now, right? They're like, there's this great Canadian writer, Cory Doctorow. I don't know if you know it. He's coined the term in shitification.
Sure.
They're like every other company that's in shitified what they do. I don't use Windows. I use Macs, so fuck them.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back for 1 minute and to the encyclopedic writing era.
Okay.
What's your favorite decade of those four? And was there a decade that you wish you would have gotten that was not available to you?
I think the 40s is the most interesting to me, right? And
post-war.
It's during the war, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, part of it is it's world transformative event, right? Like no other event in history has been really completely remade the world. Computers are born in that moment, right? And actually AI is born in that moment. The same algorithms that they use in AI today began as the algorithms that they used to track the decomposition of uranium in the atomic bombs. So it's the same math, right? So that moment is so remarkable and transformative, but also the music, the movies are so good, man. Like, is there a better movie than Casablanca? I'm not sure, right? Is there a better movie than The Maltese Falcon? Geez, I don't know, man. That scene in the bookstore gets me every time, right? Like, the 70s have some pretty great films too, but like the 40s have a raft of amazing films, books, the war, the music is phenomenal, right? Swing is so many awesome swing bands, but at the end of the decade, it's bop, man. Absolutely revolutionary. The thing about bop is bop starts during the music writers strike. So there's the ASCAP strike in 1943 or 44. And so there's no recorded music for 2 years during the end of the war. And those are the 2 years when Gillespie and those guys in New York were developing bop. And so there's no original recordings of bop's inception anywhere.
It's never been happen until 1950 they start recording it.
Oh, they start recording in 46, 47. But like 44, 45, 46, there's no recordings. There's no recordings made in America. Right? They would reissue records, but there were no new recordings made because of the writer's strike.
I didn't realize this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's when bop is born.
Wow.
So we have no, and man, I fucking love bop, but like we don't, and that's really important because how do you go from swing to bop, right? That's an enormous leap.
Sure.
Right? And we're missing that.
Well, there used to be regional sounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that sort of stewed in the same way with a void where people aren't hearing recordings being distributed around. Like you're not. Now we have the internet.
Yeah.
Everything's so accessible.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
It maybe too much. I mean, it starts to level everything out at a certain point, right?
it's exciting to have that kind of access.
It is. I listen to Tidal. I really like Tidal. It's my streaming service, and they have this thing called Daily Discovery, and that algorithm pushes to me the most interesting fucking music. It's really, really great. But they had Seattle has had this incredible music scene incumbent up here by virtue of its isolation. Developed some really unique characteristics. There was a jazz scene in the city on Jackson Street that was really famous, right?
Yeah.
And West Coast jazz, in part, is born here and in L.A., right? And then also the whole garage thing. In some ways, you can say like garage begins in Seattle, man. Like between Tacoma and Seattle.
Yeah, you bet.
This is where gnarly ass guitars first start to make their noise, man. And great surf music, man.
Right.
Come on, right? Like the Ventures, come on, right? So there's this incredible, even before grunge, even before punk up here. And in fact, actually in the hardcore punk days, this is a little bit of a backwater. There was Green River, but there weren't that many nationally known punk bands.
Right.
From like 83 to 86. Like later on, it starts to develop, right? But for really the heyday of American hardcore, there wasn't a lot in Seattle. But there was Poison Idea and Tad, right, down the road. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't. So you've been here for 31 years.
Yeah, we took a detour. We went back to East. We lived in Pittsburgh for 2 years, and then we lived in New York for 2 years.
How did you like Pittsburgh?
I didn't like it. It was flyover country, and it's the last time I heard the N-word used in a gym by white guys who felt completely clueless. When I was there, it was pretty beat up. Like it had not recovered from its recession. All the towns on the Monongahela River were abandoned and destitute. It was kind of a sad town. It's much better now. Actually, I played there a couple of years ago, and it was great. But it was pretty beat down when we were there. Then when we moved to New York, I mean, New York is the best city I've ever lived in. I fucking love New York. We lived in Cobble Hill, and it was just the 2.5 years I was in New York were phenomenal.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. But I mean, New York, it's the greatest city in the world, man. I'm sorry. I've been in every major city on the planet, and there's no city on earth that is as global, where there's as many different types of people as you can encounter in one single place. There are people from every corner of the planet in New York. The only city that's close is London, and even London isn't.
Yeah.
You don't have people from Guyana in London.
And I guess I was a little, being a weird country kid, when I got there, I was a little intimidated. I thought, well, I mean, do people get along here?
Yeah.
And generally speaking, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
love the energy of that city, man. You would come out of your house every morning and it would just hit you in the face. Like, move. You want to move. Like, people here do not stroll. They walk. Get going. Yeah. Every day, get going, man. I love the intensity of that city. And I think the people there are extremely friendly and nice. I've never had a bad situation happen to me in that city ever.
Same.
Right? It's just the opposite. I've had things gone a little sideways. Somebody always helps out.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty great. My kid lives there and she loves it. She lives in Ridgewood up in on the border of Brooklyn and Queens. Yeah. And it's a great neighborhood. A really cool place. Yeah.
You said she's a musician as well.
Yeah. She's a great player. Really great player. Terrific. She and her boyfriend, they're both really terrific musicians. But a lot of people her friends are great musicians because we've gone to see the various bands. They have a band they have a bar in Williamsburg called Skinny Dennis. That's kind of the center of their scene. And we've gone to see a bunch of bands there, and they're all terrific, really, really good music. So, that's always been the case in New York, man. Always had great music.
What do you have going on this summer?
So so what happened last year? I decided I'd been in. So for most of the time that I've lived in Seattle, I didn't play in any Seattle bands. So when I first worked at Microsoft, I did that project with Tom Morello down in L.A. But then I just stopped playing music because I was very busy with the band. I fell in love with my wife. I got married. I had my kid. So I was doing family things and work things until George Bush became president. And then I'm like, who is this motherfucker? And then I did my first step back, and I did a single up here in town, and we put it out on AT. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to do a full album, and I'm going to do it with Jay Robbins, who from Jawbox, who was a friend of mine, but also a producer. And I'm like, okay, I had written a bunch of songs, anti-Bush songs, anti-Republican, anti-corporate songs. I'm like, it's time for me to go back and yell and tell people that the world is fucked up in case they didn't know it, which most people do, but it's nice to hear it from an independent, verifiable third party, right?
Sure.
So, so I go down to Baltimore to Jay's studio, Magpie Cage, and we start to record. And Jay's bringing a lot to the table, and the drummer that he brought in, Darren Zentek, is bringing a lot to the table. And I'm like, this is a band. And Jay's like, yeah, it is a band. So then we formed the band Report Suspicious Activity, and we did 4 records and toured a bunch and added Eric Deno to guitar. And Eric ends up singing a lot of the songs that I wrote because I just love his voice. And that was a really fine project. I mean, never know. We might do some more someday. Really great band. And then after that, another guy that I had run into over the years was this guy, Jeff Dean, who's kind of a fixture of the Chicago punk scene. And Jeff's like, well, I got to get you in a band. And he's like, I've got all these songs I want to write, and they're really fast, hardcore songs. Nobody else can play them. I'm going to get my buddy Derek to play drums, and that's Derek Grant from Alkaline Trio. And he was looking to stretch out, and Joe Principi from Rise Against was looking to stretch out. So then we formed this band, Dead Ending, which has done 4 albums too. So even after I started recording again, I'm not playing in the city. I'm playing music nationally. So we would play festivals, punk rock bowling. We'd go on tours. The RSA did a bunch of tours of the East Coast. But we weren't playing out here, right? I'm not really playing in the city. And so I don't really play in Seattle until 2019. And then I decided, like, I'm going to get in a band in the city. I want to play, and I want to play a lot of guitar. So I formed this band with Mike Katz and Adam Gross called Redshift, which is like this punk surf band with me as the only guitarist. And actually half of our songs are instrumentals. And now I'm playing the shit out of guitar, and I'm like doing stuff I've never done in my life, woodshedding in my basement, playing scales, just getting faster, getting good, pulling stuff off, trying to invent things that I had never done before, listening to Dick Dale over and over and over and over, right? And so then Redshift starts to play in 1919, but then the pandemic hits. We stop. And then at the end of the pandemic, we reactivated the band, and so we played for a couple of years. But then towards the end of last year, I was like, I didn't want to do it. Bob Mould had asked me to open up a bunch of shows for him acoustic, so I had done a West Coast tour with Bob, opening acoustic guitar for him. And I'd written a bunch of new songs, and I'm like, and then, the second nightmare of Trump happens, and I'm like, Redshift is not good enough to meet this moment. I mean, it's good enough band, and those guys are great players, and I love playing in Redshift. It's a really fun band to play in because it's just the 3 of us, and we can improvise a lot. We did improvise a lot. Mike Katz is a jazz player. He's actually a jazz teacher, right? So he's coming from a totally different place, and Adam is a very R&B type drummer. So we would have long passages in Redshift where we would just improvise, and then, double shot from Adam means we go back into the verse, right? Really fun band to play in, but not right for the moment because Trump is back. It is a fucking shit show, and I need to play some really severe, loud, abrasive music. So I had done this. I had wanted to do this side project. Remember me talking about those records that I listened to when I was a kid? And I had met Fred Speakman, who's a fixture here in the Seattle scene. And he and I were talking about television and about Marquee Moon. And we're like, we should go perform that album from start to finish.
Did you do that?
We haven't done it yet. And I'm like, that's a great fucking idea. And do you want to play bass?
Yes.
Dude, you're in. You're
Yes, I
perfect for
do.
it. You're perfect for it.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we formed this band called Seattle Hardcore Album Tribute, SHAT. And it's me, Fred, Adam Dahlquist, who plays drums in Burien and a bunch of other bands, Hungry Crocodiles. He's Stuart Dahlquist's brother, right?
Of course.
And bass player is Tully Potter, this guy who lives in Bremerton who plays in Stuntmen and a dozen other bands. And such an authoritative bass player. He just, boom, sound just drives in. So we formed SHAT, but we decided we didn't want to do Marquee Moon first. And I wasn't sure that Tully would be right for Marquee Moon, honestly.
Right.
And I'm not sure that Adam Dahlquist would be right for Marquee Moon either. But Fred and I were like, we're not ready for Marquee Moon just yet. First of all, need to get my chops back to place.
A lot of rehearsal.
So let's do something else. What do you want to do? Let's do Pink Flag by Wire. So we learned Pink Flag by Wire, the four of us, and we went and we played it first at Tim's and then second at Slim's. The Slim show was off the hook. It was crazy. People had so much fun.
Yeah.
And we're looking at each other and we're like, this is a good fucking band, man. And
a fun thing.
Yeah. And so then I'm like, okay, those hard songs that I've been writing for Trump, let's go to the studio. We went to Soundhouse. We tracked them. I sent them to Bill Stevenson for mixing.
Yeah.
He came back and they sound like thunder.
He mixed it at the blasting room.
He did. Just great sounding record. And I'm like, this is a thing. And I'm talking to Biafra about it on the phone. He's like, well, what are you going to call your band? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, why don't you call it Vic Bondi and His Issues? And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. And that's what we called the band. And so the record is out. And now we're touring. Yeah, we're going tour this week.
You're leaving this week. When do you leave?
Wednesday.
So this is going to come out Tuesday.
Awesome.
I've got my work cut out for me
Okay,
tomorrow.
so, all right. So Portland, Oregon, we're going to be there the 24th. Eureka, California, we're going to be there the 25th. Santa Cruz, California, we're going to be there the 26th. San Francisco, we're going to be there the 27th, right? So come down. Let's go.
Amazing.
Yeah, let's come down. You're going to see Vic Bondi and His Issues. We're playing the whole back catalog. We're playing all of the 5 songs that we put out on the record, plus Articles of Faith, Jones Very, Alloy, Redshift, RSA, Dead Ending. We're playing songs from every band.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did your EP come out?
About 3 weeks ago.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. But now, you are the guy from Marquee Moon.
Oh, God.
So
I
we're
would
still going to do that.
love
We're still
to
going to do
it.
that. We're still going to do that. Because that record is instrumental for both of us. And between the two of us, I can do all the Verlaine stuff and he can do all of the,
Yeah. The other guy.
no, he's, that's not right.
I know.
Why am I forgetting right now? Richard Lloyd, all the
Right.
Richard Lloyd stuff. He did a great record, Alchemy himself. So, right. So anyway, Fred can do the Richard Lloyd stuff. That's the really stuff,
Yeah.
right? Whereas the Verlaine stuff is more melodic. I did see Television once. I saw them at the Moore Theater here.
Really?
I took Sophie to it. Yeah.
Oh, when they
when they played. Actually, they played twice in Seattle that I've seen them before Verlaine died. The first time was at the Moore with Verlaine and most of the original band, except for Lloyd, because he won't play with Lloyd anymore. But it was really good. And Sophie went nuts. She loves that record too.
Who did they have filling in for him?
He was a rock dude, and he was really a good player. He wore a hat. I forget what his name was. And then the second time was at the Neptune.
It wasn't the guy from Slint?
No, that was Gang of Four.
Oh, right.
The guy from
That's
Slint.
right.
Yeah. Which was also a great show at Numos. Did you see that show?
I didn't.
Oh man, that was a great show. Then they played Neptune, and they were not as good, but we were right in front of them, and Sophie just was in Wonderland because she loves that band, and so do I. So,
well,
yeah.
What's not to love?
Honestly.
What a cool, inventive band. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a ride back over to your neighborhood, and we're going to listen to that on the way over.
All right, let's do that. Now we got to find the right drummer. See, the whole point behind Shat was you found, I wanted it to be a rotating group of musicians who had a love for a specific record, and they wanted to play on that record, right? So, and the records that I've thought about that I want to do Marquee Moon. I want to do All Mod Cons by the Jam. I want to do Give 'Em Enough Rope by the Clash, and I want to do Squeezing Out Sparks by Graham Parker.
Wow,
those are the records I really want to do with Shaq.
I've put on a number of Couch Riffs Presents nights, where I've done a Funkadelic night, a 1971 night.
Ooh.
And
that was the other thing. I did want to do Stooges too, but I couldn't decide what's do you do Funhouse or do you do Raw Power?
Right. Why don't you do a best of?
No, that destroys the whole concept. You have to do the album.
Right.
You have to do the album in order.
The Funkadelic night was Maggot Brain. It was 2 sets.
Wow.
We did a best of set and then Maggot Brain in order, except that Maggot Brain was the finale instead of the opener.
Yeah.
What was the other? I did one other. Oh, I did a Sabbath night also.
Oh, nice. Which record did you do?
Well, it was
or just
I've done it. The format of the show has taken this evolution, and it was really hard because I had this idyllic, concept of, all right, I want to have 20 musicians, and throughout the night, everyone rotates through, and everyone gets to play with everyone, and try to bring groups of people together that maybe normally wouldn't cross paths, maybe.
Well, that's the same Shat concept right there, right? And
it was really hard to rehearse.
It is hard.
It is hard. In my ass, and I'll never do it
and
again.
Also for me in particular, like I absolutely believe you abuse rehearsing until you can barely stand up. I mean, I will not under rehearse.
Right.
So like with Shat, one reason that now the band is really firing on all cylinders is we worked really hard on that record on Pink Flag.
Yeah.
And we had 3-4 hour practices twice a week, right, to get there, right? And it's hard to play someone else's music and do it justice, right? And because we didn't play every note perfect. That's not the idea. The idea is to get it to the right place with the right energy that the original had.
To deliver it.
Yeah.
I've wanted to do a Clash night for a long time.
So Give 'Em Enough Rope is, if maybe we can do that as a different chat, because like I'm dying to do that record because that's I learned how to play everything on that record. And like, I've got the best approximation of Joe Strummer's voice in the world anyway. So like I should sing that record for sure.
Rev from the Drowns is also like, if you do a Clash night and you don't include me, you're the worst person on earth.
What does he play?
He plays guitar and sings, but I'm talking about, maybe, what does that night look like?
Yeah.
What is it? That's like Shat doing that record.
Yep.
But what is the rest of the night?
Whatever other band is playing. Like,
It could be that kind of a thing. Could be a collaborative. There could be another sort of.
oh, you could have Vic Bondi and his issues, the Drowns, and Shat. Right? I'd play 2 sets.
Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he wanted to be the lead vocalist on that, I could even do the Mick Jones stuff and just play the lead guitar shit.
Look, we're not here to sort out the details yet.
Okay, all right. I mean, Cheapskates. I could probably play that right now. And then he does the feedback. Oh, well. I could do that.
Well, we've accomplished a lot here this evening.
Yeah, man.
This
Yeah.
is great.
We've got the next iteration of Shat lined up. Woo! That's it right there.
I'm so happy to know you now.
Yeah, man.
And know you're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have each other's numbers. I
Yep.
hope that won't be a stranger.
No. I'm really serious about the Shat thing. I do want to pursue that. So
Amazing.
yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I wish you the best on your tour.
Yeah. And then we're going out in August with Dick for a week, and then we're going in the fall. We're going from Chicago to Fest and play in the center of the country. So another tour. So
I might go to Riot Fest this year.
not Riot Fest, the Fest in Florida.
Oh, I don't know this.
Oh, it's great. It's in Gainesville. I played it with RSA. It's like, what is this, their 25th year of doing this?
Oh, wow.
They just basically take over the town. And so all of the bars turn into Fest. It's like South by Southwest.
Oh, right.
And, they have so many fine bands. It's just really, it's so great. Really,
Awesome.
Really fun. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah. You should come to that. That's going to be fun.
That's a long way to go.
It is.
And I don't have a job to do there. I feel like everything I do revolves around me having a secondary function there. Very little leisure time for me.
Yeah.
I hope your tour is great. I hope the best for your record.
Yeah.
It's out on
Alternative Tentacles. Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, with the first night we played, we sold out of all the records we had. So, like,
great.
yeah.
That's a great problem to have.
It is. Yeah. It's great.
Vic?
All right, man. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I really do. Yeah. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
What a time.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like it could be a voluminous episode. I don't know how long we went just now, but